All right, so you should see Jared. And how you doing, Jared? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for joining us. You can go ahead and share your screen while I'm giving the intro if you haven't done that already. Awesome. Thank you very much. So the reason we have Jared here today is not only because he is awesome, but we're frequently asked how process servers can use social media, specifically Twitter, to connect with potential clients and cultivate a following. Twitter can become a powerful tool for advertising your services so long as you have coherent strategies in place. Jared is the man who wrote the book on Twitter for attorneys. Jared D. Correia Esquire is the author of the American Bar Association publication, Twitter in 1 Hour for Lawyers. We're going to have to do that in, what, 52 minutes today, though?
I have a short version.
All right. Jared, and yeah, I mean, I'm actually going to take up about 30 minutes just going through your bio here. So,
That's fair.
all right. He is the Assistant Director and Senior Law Practice Advisor at the Massachusetts Law Office Management Assistance Program, correct?
Yes.
He is
Yes.
a regular contributor to local and national legal publications, the host of the Legal Toolkit podcast on the Legal Talk Network, and Lunch Hour Marketing, a monthly educational session produced in conjunction with a number of state bars. As I said, his bio is quite extensive. But the only other thing you need to know about Jared is that he is a hilarious and awesome person who somehow became a fan of Brad Paisley despite living in the Northeast. Apparently listened to the album to get pumped up for this webinar. He is the father
It's
of
all
two young
true.
children, and his wife plays fantasy baseball, which is awesome. Jared is joining us today from his office in Boston, correct?
Yes.
All right. I will stop talking. I'll hand it over to you. I will hide myself, and we'll try to save 5 minutes or so at the end. I'll come back on when there's about 5 minutes left, and we'll answer some questions.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Trent.
Thank you.
It's true. My wife does play fantasy baseball, and the most disappointing part about that is that she plays fantasy baseball better than me. It's somewhat emasculating, but that's all right. Let me give you a little bit of background about myself first. Trent told you a little bit about me. I know I'm a humorous and awesome person. What is there beyond that? And I like Brad Paisley, which everybody should like Brad Paisley. Get the album Moonshine in the Trunk tonight. It's amazing. So I work for the Law Office Management Assistance Program, which provides free and confidential law practice management consulting to lawyers. But we provide a lot of free information that works for anybody with respect to marketing and technology. So you want to find out more about me, go to masslomap.org, masslomap.org. We're a nonprofit. I don't have to sell the services, so let's get into this. So as Trent said, I did write the book on Twitter. Crazily enough, there's a book on Twitter for lawyers, and I happen to be the author. So I've been into this topic for at least the last 3 years from the standpoint of the book. But before that, I got a Twitter account in 2008 when Twitter was relatively new. So I was an early adopter on that front. It was a technology I really liked. It was a way to market our program, our nonprofit program, without paying a whole lot of money. And I know that's what people like to hear. So I'm going to try to cover a lot of ground today. It'll be more of an overview than getting into too much technical detail, but I'm certainly willing to answer technical detail questions either in the short Q&A when we're done here or via email or a phone call if people want to have conversations with me after the fact. I'm certainly fine with that. So let's get into the preliminary stuff first. I don't know why I write preliminary on the slides because clearly I can't pronounce it. Let's talk about some of the background stuff you're going to need to do to set up an effective Twitter account for marketing your company. So on the profile side of things, and incidentally the profile is basically what people see when they go to your account page. So you've got your picture there, you've got a bio there, you've got some tweets there, hopefully. People can see who you follow, who you're following. In theory, you should have some tweets there, although some people have a Twitter account and never tweet, which seems odd to me. That would seem to defeat the whole purpose, right? Some people have a Twitter account and they're trying to market themselves, but they don't have an avatar or a photo. Some people have a Twitter account they're trying to use to market their business and they don't have a bio. These would appear to me to be essential things, to me at least. So I think what you need to think about when you're going to create a Twitter account, and really any social media marketing tool, because these tactics are effective across the board, really, you want to think about three primary things. The first is having a photo of some kind. And I'm not talking about a photo that you take with your smartphone in your bathroom in a various state of undress. What you really want to be doing is taking a professional headshot and putting that online. If you can get that done, and it's relatively cheap to get that done, you can create sort of this visceral connection with the people who are going to be looking at your account. If somebody can see a picture of you, it's better than just seeing text. And the thing about people in 2015 is that nobody really has much of an attention span anymore. Television, video games, smartphones, they've beaten the attention span right out of us. So if somebody only sees text, they're far less likely to engage than if they can see a photo. And if somebody's looking for a photo of you, they're going to be looking for a professional headshot, because that indicates that you're a professional person. Get a high-res version and a low-res version of your headshot, attach it to your account, which is very easy to do, and then you'll have an improved Twitter profile. Maybe more important than the headshot, although they should work in conjunction, is that you want to have a bio of some kind on Twitter. Now, just to give you folks some idea of the character limitations here, what I like about Twitter is that you can't say too much. And I'm a lawyer. Lawyers have a tendency to say too much stuff. So being reined into 140 characters per tweet sort of forces you to be pithy and funny sometimes and coherent and get right to the point. You got to eliminate all those unnecessary words. The bio on Twitter is a little bit more extended than what you get for a tweet. It's going to be 160 characters, but still that's only 20 characters more. So the way I sort of view it for people is this is your chance to do your social media online elevator pitch. Because an elevator pitch is supposed to be short. You all know what an elevator pitch is. What that is your 30-second, 60-second pitch about what your business is and means to you that you should be able to deliver to somebody else. If you're in an elevator with them, the doors are shutting, and you need to give them a good sense of what services you provide in case they're a potential referral source or a potential client. So Twitter, you've got 160 characters to do that. So make sure you craft a short, pithy bio that people are going to remember. And you want it to function as an elevator pitch would function. Now, there are clever things you can do and interesting things you could do with elevator pitches. One of the best I've ever heard was a divorce lawyer from Long Island who, when people asked him what he did, he said, "I render asunder," which is like a perfect three-word elevator pitch. You could do that on Twitter and then put a link to your website. The other thing about the bio is that you want to include links in there as well, because you can. You can include links about your site, your business website, or your blog, a LinkedIn account, a Facebook account, really whatever you want to do, you can throw into that Twitter bio. So when you're looking at creating a profile that's effective, the three things you want to remember are a photo, professional headshot, a bio that's pithy, that's effective, that acts as your elevator pitch online, which you can then replicate in various social media services, and also making sure that you've got links in there. If you look at my Twitter bio, for example, and if you're interested and you want to go look at it now, let's say you're using two screens and you can do that. My profile is @JaredCorreia, and a lot of the stuff I talk about here I've done. I mean, hopefully I've done all of it, right? Don't want to shoot my credibility already. We're only on the first slide. So mine is mostly links to stuff I've done, and that's appropriate too. So let's move on here. As you can see, I spend much of my time on Google Images, and I'm not necessarily a technologist. Look, I have paper notes for this presentation. I don't even have a smartphone. Take a look at this. This is my phone. It's a flip phone. See, it actually flips. I stole this phone from Walter White. So one thing I'll say is that in order to effectively leverage your business on social media, you don't have to be a technologist. This stuff is pretty straightforward, and you can do it even if you're not tech savvy. And I'm going to lay out basically the way I think you do that. But one of the things you need to focus on before you get started is who your target clients are. And this is something that a lot of business professionals don't think about, unfortunately. What you want to be figuring out is, who are you trying to reach on social media? Sometimes the answer is the same as who you're trying to reach in other marketing campaigns, but sometimes it's not. Because firms have a general notion of who their target clients are, but there are different categories of those targeted clients. So you want to reach the people who are your target clients who are going to be interested in using Twitter, whatever you think that demographic is. And maybe you're guessing at first, but you want to have some notion of who these people are. The issue with not identifying target clients is you never quite know who you're trying to reach. So it's very difficult to craft marketing material in that instance. It's so much easier to write something for an audience than it is to write something that's generic or that's maybe important to you, but you have no idea how it's going to fly with an audience. So you want to make sure you have some idea of what your target client is. And we'll talk about the importance of that as we move forward. But you can do this in any number of ways. I mean, you can use demographics to figure out who your target clients are. Are you looking for people of a certain income? Are you looking for people who live in a certain geographic region? Are you looking for people with certain needs that are exclusive of the needs that other people have? You can even drill down to the point that my target client has blue eyes and a red beard, and they like to go to pirate conventions. I know attorneys who do that. Now, that's not going to be your only target client, but you can expand upon that idea. Sometimes it helps people to think of not target clients generally in mass, but to think about a specific target client, and that helps them to focus. But clearly the market research piece is important here as well. So you got to figure out who your target clients are, but you also got to figure out who your competitors are, who's going after the same people, and then how do you differentiate yourself from your competitors. There's really two kinds of marketing you're going to be doing at a very basic level. The first is direct client marketing. So you're trying to reach out to people who would be your clients, who are immediately interested in your services. And you're not going to know who those people are unless you have an idea of who your target client is to start with. So make sure you hammer that out. You market to clients directly in different ways than you would market to, say, referral sources, which I'll get to shortly. The biggest trick here is to make sure that you have the answer to the client's questions. So let's step back a little bit and talk about how clients find businesses. Well, if they haven't heard of you, they're not getting referred to you from somebody else, what they're going to do is oftentimes Google you, right? So what do they do when they Google you? Well, they don't know your name, so they got to figure out another way to find out what you do. They type in a question, and then they type in a category. And then oftentimes they're typing in a geographic limiter. So taking a very basic question, and I probably don't know enough about service of process to have a specific question because I haven't practiced law in about 10 years. Need a process server, California. Service of process. Maybe that's somebody's Google query. And it's sort of a longer query. But if you've got on your website relevant information about that topic, if you've got blog posts that are germane to that topic, and if you're using social media, particularly Twitter, to talk about these issues and to expand the reach of your expertise, then it's more likely than not that that person is going to find you. And there's no guarantee that that person is just going to Google search you, or they may not Google search you as a primary option. People get their information from so many disparate sources now. Twitter may be their first place to look. So you don't want to miss those marketing channels, and you want to make sure that you have information to answer clients' questions at enough locations that if they do that Google search and they use that geographic limiter, that they can find you. Content marketing is extremely helpful when we're talking about delivering your message on social media or really anywhere else online. And I'll talk to you about content marketing momentarily. We'll get a plan together for you. You may even leave this webinar with a plan of how to use content marketing and social media to more effectively market your business. Let's hope so, right? My fingers are crossed See, feel free to cross your fingers as well. So let's talk about the other way that potential clients find you. And the second way is that they've heard of you. So they type your name or the name of your business into the internet. Into Google or another search engine. So what you need to do there is you need to sort of dominate that category. If you've got a company name and maybe you've only got 3 entries on the first page of Google, but some of your competitors are there, that's a problem. So you want to make sure that you can dominate as much as possible in a crowded field the information that people see online when they search for your company name or the name of the proprietors of that company. And this extends also not just to the marketing people that you hire or the marketing people in your company. Everybody involved in a company, just as everybody involved in a law firm, should be marketing that company, and that should be a primary focus of what they're doing. You should know what people find when they look for you online. You should be the one who's crafting that conversation. The beauty of using the internet to publish, and if you engage yourself in some SEO tactics to support that, that's beyond the reach of this conversation, but that's something you could do as well. The beauty of that is that you can control the conversation about yourself. You can sort of create your own spin online. If you produce relevant content consistently, that's good, and you do it across your organization. And you can do that for any company. You can do that for a law firm. You can do that for a process service company. It's the same tactic. It's just done in a slightly different way. So you got to think about relevant content as being the backbone of all this, but then it's a matter of publishing that and distributing that in such a way that either way people are looking for you, whether they're doing a generic search or whether they're doing a search that's been directed by a referral of yours, that they can find what they need about you. And the good thing about being in different channels is that occasionally you need to touch people more than once before they're going to use your services. And I would say more than occasionally, most times. Everybody's bombarded with information these days. So you may need to have your information cross somebody's eyes 5, 6, 7 times before they finally decide, oh, that's the company I need. People have short attention spans. They don't retain stuff. They need to be hit over the head with things. And referral marketing, by the way, is the best type of marketing you can do. You see these 2 golden robots conversing? Yeah, I don't know where I found that image either. But I go down Google Images rabbit holes frequently. Referral marketing is the best because you're doing less work. If you can build up those referral pipelines from the start, then somebody else is selling your business for you, and you're doing less work in the long run. The most successful businesses are built on referral marketing to a large extent. So as I just referenced, the issue with marketing online in 2015 is that there are so many different information gathering channels. Think about where you get your news. It's not from one place. It's probably from multiple places. And then you have your favorites. So who do you follow? Why do you follow them? And how do you gather the information? For some people, the primary news aggregator for them is Twitter. And that's my primary news aggregator, to be honest with you. Mostly I'm on there for business management stuff, which I'm wanting to repost because of what I do for work. But oftentimes I will be sitting and doing something on Twitter, and my wife will be, after she finishes her fantasy baseball draft, my wife will be watching the news, and she'll tell me something that was potentially new to her, but I knew about it like 6 hours ago because of the real-time updates on Twitter. I think people like the speed with which Twitter produces information. I think they like the real-time updates and interaction on Twitter. And so a lot of people use it as a primary information gathering source, both for business information and also for general news information. So that's a channel you want to be in. It's not the only channel you want to be in. And I think some people make the mistake of thinking Twitter or social media is going to be the magic bullet. Like, I'm going to market on Twitter and my business is just going to blow up. But it doesn't happen that way. You want to be using multiple channels because you never know who's going to find you in what channel. But Twitter, I think, is an important one. And I should stop for a second here and say that one of the things I do on Twitter is follow people in certain categories. that are similar to my business model. And the reason I do that, even if they're competitors, is so that A, I can keep track of what they're doing, but B, I want it to be part of my general content marketing, content management scheme. So let's talk about that. Content marketing, if you haven't heard of it, is a pretty basic idea. The idea is that you produce content in an area of your specialty and you distribute it as widely as you can. Pretty straightforward, right? What are some of the ways that people market using content? So blogs, YouTube videos, articles and journals, specialty trade journals, presentations that are recorded, audio, podcasts. Podcasts are big now. So again, when you think of people who are overwhelmed with stuff that they need to do, people who have short attention spans, it's very easy to listen to a podcast in a car or listen to a podcast when you're running because you don't need to do anything else but listen. Your hands are free, you can do other things. So the beauty of content marketing is that it's free to do if you do it right. And you can be very successful at it by building a following for what you do. So the trick is that you're writing about stuff in your area of expertise, but you're not giving away the farm. And you got to figure out what level that is. But think back to what I said before about how clients find you. They're looking for relevant information. They're looking for answers to their specific questions. So what you need to do in this case is write relevant content for them. Think of the questions your client has, for example. If you can figure out 5 questions that they would have, 5 even generic questions, you can have 5 blog posts. You could produce 5 videos. You can record 5 podcasts. Hell, you can do all of those things. You could take one topic and repurpose it and spin it off to a blog, an article, a podcast, a video, whatever you want to do. You could create a Tumblr account off of that idea. There is an unlimited, nearly unlimited way to publish yourself these days. And that was a big change because it used to be that business professionals had to find a way to get published by somebody. In the legal field, as an attorney, you used to have to find a bar association that was willing to publish your stuff. Otherwise, you couldn't find a mouthpiece. Now, there's more publication options that many people can handle. So I think content marketing is tremendously helpful, especially if you don't want to spend a lot of money marketing your firm, marketing your company. The other trick to this, too, is that if you do it right, and you're not paying somebody to do it, it sort of forces you to create your own voice. So if you're writing content, you have to have a hook of some kind, right? You have to have this thing that separates you from other people. So what do you do that's unique? What's unique about your voice? Anybody can write about service or process, right? Anybody can write about law practice management. How are you different from other people? I think you need to inject your personality into your writing to the extent that you can. What I used to do, Trent will appreciate this, I used to write blog posts, and I've started doing this again that have what I call liner notes at the end of them. So I like music. I listen to a lot of music. Most of the files on my computer are music files. So I would do little peeks where I would recommend a song every week. Sometimes I do profiles of artists that I like. Not like lengthy stuff, but just stuff that people might be interested in. So I remember one time I wrote something about Warren Zevon and about how he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And like 8 people sent me CDs. And 3 of them became clients of ours. So if you can put a unique spin on what you do, in addition to doing quality work in your area of expertise, then that's all to the good. So let's talk specifically about how you get ramped up on content marketing. So the first thing you need is to publish stuff, right? So you need to write stuff. So you need to have somebody who can write stuff. That may be you, that may be somebody in your organization. So how do you get started? I think a lot of people think they can't write, or they're not good at writing, or they never keep up with it. But I think probably the hardest thing of all is having the confidence to put yourself out there online. I mean, even if you start a blog and only like 4 people are reading it, you're still out there. And sometimes people can live in fear of negative comments. So what happens if I write something and I'm wrong? What happens if I write something and somebody gets mad at me? Well, all that stuff's probably going to happen. I've written blog posts where I'm wrong before. But the beauty of the internet is we're not talking about carving stuff in stone, right? So you screwed something up in a blog post, go back and edit it. Somebody has a nasty comment, respond to them. You don't have to be nasty about it, but you can respond to people. So two good things about the internet and writing on the internet is that you can always fix your mistakes, A, and B, there's always an opportunity to engage someone. Even if you're not going to change somebody's mind, you can provide a different take on what they had to say. So if someone's criticizing you, you can spin that conversation. You can control that conversation, but only if you're active. So what you need to do is put the publication stuff together first and start writing. If you've never written before, if you don't feel like you have the experience to do it, you got to sort of fake it till you make it. And I know people are scared to do that, but the internet's a perfect place to do that. Because again, you can change things that you don't necessarily understand from the start. And the other thing to think about is that it's a learning process. If you just started a process service company, let's say, and you didn't have a full handle, you feel like, on everything that you need to do, well, that's all right. If you write blog posts or if you write articles, it will force you to learn this stuff. And that's a good thing. And I know you're probably thinking, why is he talking so much about blogging? I'll get to that. I did not mislabel a presentation. It's still about Twitter. The other thing you want to do when you're writing is to sort of force yourself to write. So how do you force yourself to write? Do you need someone to cane you or push you, physically push you? No. What you can do is you can create a publication schedule. So do a blog post every week and force yourself to do it. How do you force yourself to do it? Do you drink castor oil if you don't? No, you just put it on your calendar. Make it a task so that when you're in your email, which you're in every day, right? Everybody's in their email every day. If you don't write that post, there's that little red flag on the right side of your email, and you're saying to myself, I got to write that damn blog post. If that little red flag's not there, you're probably not going to act as quickly. If you've got multiple people in your company, you can do multiple blogs. You can do multiple authors on a blog. But regardless, you have to have a publication setup and a publication strategy. And part of that strategy includes forcing yourself to write at regular intervals. The social media thing becomes sort of a double-edged sword, right? After a while, people sort of expect stuff from you at certain times. So if you started publishing a blog at 2 p.m. on a Friday every week, and you stop doing that, you may lose some people who are following you because they expect that information to come out at that time. So scheduling your writing, publishing it with regularity as part of a larger publication strategy is a good way to go about doing this. I think a lot of people market and they say, okay, this is all soft cost, right? I just got to go out and be charismatic. Well, that's not what it's all about. Sure, it's great to be charismatic, but beyond that, you got to make sure that you have some substance behind that and also that you have a strategy behind that, because otherwise you're going to be wasting your time. And I'll talk about how you figure out not to waste your time later on. That's an alligator, by the way, I think. So just off topic. If you're writing stuff, don't have an alligator pass it out. I would go with a clever land shark, have them knock on the door, tell people it's a candygram, and maybe that's how you pass out your stuff. So publication strategy is one thing. Distribution is the other thing. So how do you get this stuff out? Say you publish a blog, and it's sitting at your website, and only 4 people read it. And of the 4 people who've read it, your mom has clicked on the link twice. So here's what you do. You got to get your stuff out there. You got to expand your reach, right? Enter social media, Twitter particularly. So this is where Twitter is great. And this is where you can do real yeoman's work on Twitter. You got a piece of content, right? A blog, whatever it is. It lives at the blog, but you've got a link from that blog. And what you want to do is you want to drive readers to that post. The more hits you get, the more relevant the content becomes, the higher up it's on the Google rankings, the more likely it is people are going to find it, the more likely it is people are going to use your business services. So every time you write a blog post, cross-post it to Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google+, Tumblr, whatever the hell other social media service you have. Because now, instead of being in one channel, the blog post, which people may or may not subscribe to using an RSS feed, now you're in 6 channels. And that's good because, as we talked about before, somebody may not be getting their information from your website, but they could be likely to get your information on Twitter or LinkedIn if that's what they use. So I use Twitter as sort of my hub for everything because I think it's the easiest social media platform to use, and to my mind, it's the best because, yes, my attention span has been frayed as well because I live in modern society. That is until I unplug and get off the grid. So when I do, I'll have several Brad Paisley CDs. So what you want to do when you're using Twitter to market a blog post, for example, and that's the example I'm using right now, the best tactic is to post it with a couple different taglines, a couple different ways. Once you start using a service like this regularly, you're going to have a lot of followers. You're going to have a lot of people following you. So how do you ensure that they sort of have an opportunity to see what you've done? Well, post it 3 times over the course of a week. If somebody misses it the first 2 times, maybe they catch it the second time. Do the same thing on the other social media services. Now, instead of making 1 post, you've all of a sudden made 15. And each of them are different and unique in their own way. And you're doing that across 5 or 6 different services. Maybe redundant for people who follow you across every service, but how many people really do that? Again, probably just my mom. So you push that stuff out, you're automatically in 6 channels, and the other thing is you're expanding your reach. People are going to be linking back to that, reading your blog. Maybe you go from 3 blog readers to 15 blog readers the next week. It's a start. And when you're talking about the social media channels, think about how Twitter works. You've got people following you, and you're following people. So even if you're on Twitter and you have 10 followers, there's always that golden opportunity out there that somebody who has more followers than you is going to pick your stuff up. So they would be able to forward that post, which is called a retweet, out to their followers. So say you get somebody who's interested in what you've written, and they have 10,000 followers. Well, all of a sudden, your stuff is now being broadcast to 10,010 people. Now, are they all going to read it? Hells no, they're not all going to read it. But think about traditional marketing campaigns, right? If you send out brochures in the mail and you get a 1% response rate, that's considered a success. On the social media side, I think the same number probably applies. And just think about how that could spin out. Somebody's got 10,000 followers, they retweet you. Somebody who follows them who has 30,000 followers retweets you. Now all of a sudden you're in 40,000 people's streams. One point we wrote a blog post about something that had to do with Microsoft. I forget what it is even at this point. But I tagged Microsoft in it. And when I say tag, I mean when I wrote the post or linked it out on Twitter, it had @Microsoft in there so that Microsoft would be notified on their account that I was writing about them. Well, Microsoft liked what we wrote, and they retweeted it. And I'll tell you, we had an average blog post viewing of probably about 300 people per post at that point. When Microsoft retweeted our stuff, we had 3,000 for that blog post. So you can get in the right channels, but this is a subsidiary piece of this as well, that you have to sort of notify people of what you're doing. So if you're talking about someone, tag them, or create a hashtag that's relevant to them that they'll know about. And a hashtag is just a pound symbol that allows you to categorize the tweets. Again, I didn't want this to be too technical a presentation. I just wanted to discuss strategy for the most part, but we can have that conversation at some point if you or someone else listening is interested. You want to make sure that you're getting into as many channels as possible in as many unique ways as possible. And we'll talk about a couple of significant ways to do that next, or after this next slide. Did you know there's a bobblehead museum at the Miami Marlins Stadium? Seems appropriate, right? Because the Miami Marlins aren't a real baseball team. Sorry if anyone's out there from Miami. No, actually, I'm not sorry. So let's talk about curating content. So it's not just about publishing your own content. Think about it. If you're a content marketer and you have 5 posts on Twitter on any given day, and it's all your stuff, that's not so good, because people are going to view you as salesy. They're going to view your stuff as spam. And now they know that every time you write something to them, you're going to try and sell something, even if it's a soft sell. So how do you fix that? Well, you start pushing out other people's content who also have expertise in this area. You become a content curator. And so what I mean by a curator is that you're just aggregating good content from other people in the subject matter that you know well. So not only do you become a subject matter expert by what you write, you become a subject matter expert per the fact that you can find and locate other people who know this stuff as well, and then you can push it out to your feed. And sure, you promote other people. Maybe on occasion you promote some of your competitors, but that's fine. It shows that you're not totally a salesman all the time. It shows that you're not interested in spamming people. And it shows that beyond anything that has to do with selling a business, you have an interest in the topic, a genuine interest in the topic. And people like that. So if you can get other people's content that's relevant, post it on your feeds, you'll look better from a marketing standpoint. You won't look as salesy, and it'll be easier to make the soft sell to people. And it builds your own expertise in the same way. The other trick to this is that, think about it, if you're retweeting stuff from other people or forwarding stuff to people from your Twitter account, from their Twitter account to yours, well, aren't they going to be more likely to post your stuff too? Of course they are. So that's another way to increase your reach also. You always want to be thinking about increasing your reach because there are so many people to be reached in so many different categories. So this is just another way to expand what you do and to get the word out about what you have to say on the topic area. One of the best ways, I think, to be able to curate content on Twitter is by making what are called lists. So on Twitter, you're able to follow people in categories. What I mean by that is maybe you think there are 4 people in the United States who do a really good job making vegan meatloaf. And you say, all right, this is going to be my vegan meatloaf list. This is where I'm going to get the best recipes. Vegan meatloaf probably tastes terrible. But maybe there are people out there who can make it taste less terrible. So you create a list. And so when you've got your standard Twitter account, say you're following 800 people. Well, you've got 800 people's stuff coming through all day long. When you're reading their feed, it's going to be impossible to make any sense of that because there's just going to be too much stuff. Too much of it's going to be detritus, junk, people trying to sell penny stocks, people who have avatars that's showing them in various states of undress. You want to make sure that you've got targeted information that you can access. So you make a list of the best people. You make a list of your favorite process service companies. You make a list of your favorite lawyers that you work with. And then you can promote their stuff, they can promote your stuff. But the trick is, and it's the same thing on the other side when you're trying to market to other people, it's the same thing when you're trying to manage your own marketing. Who's got stuff that's relevant, and how do I get to it quickly without having to wade through the other garbage? So make those lists. You'll only get categories of information from people that you trust, and then you can use that to push out other people's content. So this is how it works. You get other people's content coming through a dedicated stream. It's more easily pushed out, and then you have your own stuff, maybe 20% of the time, 30% of the time, and then you're pushing out other people's information the rest of the time. You don't look salesy, you look confident, you look like you know what you're doing, and all of this goes to advance your expertise. But again, it's a system to develop. The other technique here is to favorite people's tweets. And, I mean, you know how this works. On Facebook, there's a little thumbs up, the like button that you can click. On Twitter, you can favorite people's tweets. So favorite somebody's post. They'll see that. Twitter will also aggregate a list of favorites. So, again, we're talking about you want to position yourself as a subject matter expert. You're favoriting stuff that's relevant to your area, relevant to your business. People will see that who are looking at your favorites list, because people do that. Twitter tracks your whole list of favorites. And also, people you favorite are going to see that, and maybe they'll start favoriting your stuff. Maybe they'll start reposting your stuff. Get into more channels, get more followers. So 2 simple tools you can use on Twitter would be the list tool, and those are published publicly as well, and the favoriting tool, which are both super easy to use. So 2 tactics there that I think are really helpful. So the objections to Twitter that I most frequently hear are twofold. One is, I ain't got time for Twitter. And 2 is, I'm not going to make any more money off of Twitter. And I think it's a flawed way of thinking in a couple ways. So with respect to time management, let's talk about that first. You can do this in such a way that it's not going to overwhelm what you do. And you can use standard time management techniques. So block time, right? if you're going to have Twitter and you're going to use it as a way to market your business, you don't want to keep it open all day when you're trying to respond to emails, when you're trying to do substantive work. So what you want to do instead is say, okay, I'm going to take a half an hour tonight and work on my social media accounts, including Twitter. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to focus on anything else. So I'm going to block out time. I'm going to eliminate interruptions, and I'm not going to multitask. Those are 3 like tried and true time management techniques. Apply it to social media too. You'll get in quicker, you'll get out quicker, you won't feel like you go down these rabbit holes when you're trying to do something else, and then you can get on with your life and your business management and do other things. That's the key to using any kind of social media, Twitter included. You got to make sure that it doesn't take over what you do and you're using it for your purposes, not being used by it. You want to make sure that you're building those effective habits too. So if your plan is you want to be on Twitter a half an hour after dinner every night and be done with it, then do that and stick to it. Do it every day. That's how you build a habit. You want to make sure that you establish tasks too. If it's something that you want to do, you should create tasks surrounded by that. So I wrote a blog post. So what do? Well, I'm going to post it 3 times on Twitter. Then I'm going to post it twice on LinkedIn, twice on Google+, and these are the days I'm going to do that. That harkens back to your publication strategy, but it's also creating tasks to sort of move you forward on that aspect of social media marketing for your practice, for your business, and that'll build a habit up too. But you don't want to get overwhelmed with this. As I said, it's not a magic bullet solution, and you don't want to spend too much time marketing just like you don't want to spend too much time doing anything else. I think a lot of people still procrastinate, and one of the reasons people procrastinate is because they feel overwhelmed, and they just want to stop doing what they're doing that makes them feel overwhelmed. So one of the tactics I think successful people use for managing procrastination is that they take a break every day, and just take a day, not every day, although you can take a break every day. Take a day every week and have that as your day where you're not doing work-related stuff, including marketing your practice or your firm or your company. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself some time in non-work-related stuff so that you're not burnt out. And some people get so into social media that it's easy for them to get burnt out. One of the best things you can do from a time management perspective, from a marketing management perspective on social media, is use one of these social media dashboards. A company like Hootsuite, Raven Tools, TweetDeck. What you're going to get with these companies, and a lot of these products are free, Hootsuite is the one I use and it's free, is you'll have one dashboard where you can see all your various Twitter streams, which you can't see on the twitter.com page. So if I create a list of, or I create 3 or 4 lists of people that I like that I want to pull content from, I can see those as separate streams across my dashboard. It's just a more efficient way to manage your social media marketing, and it's all across the various platforms. So you could have your Twitter account there, your LinkedIn account there, your Google Plus account there. Anything you got, put it in one dashboard, and then it's easier to block out time too. Because you say, all right, I'm going to spend an hour on social media marketing, and these are the various categories I'm going to be working in. It's tremendously effective. It's a free tool. And if you can do the one-stop shopping thing and have a dashboard where you can manage everything you need to manage from one place, and you can cross-post if you want to. You can make a post to LinkedIn and Google Plus at the same time, let's say. That's really helpful. The other aspect of these programs that's really useful is that you can schedule tweets, and I highly recommend that. People say, you're on Twitter all the time. How do you do it? Well, I'm not on Twitter all the time. That's how I do it. I block my time, and I spend time scheduling posts. So I may not actually log into Twitter for 3 or 4 days, but I can schedule 3 or 4 days worth of posts. And I spend my time doing that, and then I get off for a little bit. And you can do that by using one of these free social media management tools, one of these social media dashboards, and you can do it effectively. I know we're getting close to time here, but there's just a few more things I wanted to talk about, and then I'll be done. Promise. Another tool that you can use is a customer relationship management software. Everybody's probably already heard of Salesforce. That's the biggie here. But there are some free tools like Streak in Google, which is a pretty cool tool, Pipedrive, which is a relatively inexpensive CRM tool. But what these customer relationship management systems are going to do is they're going to allow you to look at the leads that you're generating, where those leads are generating from, and then figure out whether you're actually closing business or not closing business. That'll tell you two things. The first is, where am I getting my clients from? Am I actually getting them from Twitter, or do I only just think that? You got to look at the data. You got to do an analytics analysis to make sure that you can sort of see where this information is coming from. The other thing it'll show you is if you're getting leads and you're not converting them, you can see how you lose sales. So on those two criteria, having a customer relationship management system and utilizing one, especially if you're using a free one like Streak is on Gmail. Another company is called Insightly, and they have a good CRM platform. But you're going to want to figure out those two things. Most people market very incoherently. They figure it's a soft cost, and they just go out there and try to figure it out without a plan. But you want to have a plan. You want to back that up with a CRM system so you can see actually what's effective and what's ineffective. You also want to have a marketing plan in general. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the marketing plan, but there are templates out there that you can use. You want to have a plan for what you're doing, including a budget. And finally, what I'll say is that you want to make sure that you're tracking the return on investment. So it's great to know where you're losing leads. It's great to know where your leads are coming from. But where the rubber meets the road is whether or not your efforts are paying off in terms of money. So figure out how much time you spend tweeting a week and how much that costs you in terms of lost work time. How much would you get paid if you were doing work-related things at that point? Well, take a look and see what clients are coming from Twitter or what referrals you're getting from Twitter. And then figure out whether or not the money you're putting in matches the money you're getting back. If you're in the black, that's great. If you're in the red, there's a problem. And then you got to figure out, am I going to continue to go down this road that I've been going down with ultimately a little success, or am I going to change my plan and do something else? This isn't to say that you want to decide right away that you're going to stop something if it's not working out in, say, the first 2 or 3 months. I think you really need to figure out how you're going to find the time. I think you really need to give some of these marketing endeavors time to develop, especially social media, because it takes a little while longer to build a following if you do it right. But ultimately, the end game is you want to figure out what works in your marketing and what doesn't. That's true of generic marketing, traditional marketing, and that's also true of social media. So I hope this was helpful to folks. My flip phone tells me it's about 1:47, so I think that means I should be open for questions. So if anybody's got questions, I'll gladly take them.
Great stuff, Jared. Thank you so much. Jared, I think you have about 5 minutes before you have to hop off. So if people have questions, feel free to drop those into the GoToWebinar panel here under the questions section. If not, and you want to hear more from Jared, he'll be appearing at Saul's Comedy Club in Pawtucket, Rhode Island on April 3rd, and the Golden Meadows Senior Center in Attleboro on April 5th. So I'm definitely going to get my ticket ahead of time.
Damn, Trent, I appreciate your research. Those are local towns.
They are. I have been to both. I was at the Bucket for a game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. See, I knew you were legit.
Right? Well,
I think I wowed all your attendees. Nobody's got any questions. Easiest presentation I've ever done.
It was phenomenal and fun and interesting, and I think, and social media is definitely something that in our industry more people are embracing. We had a blogger session yesterday, and there were certainly references of content marketing and Hootsuite and all those other tools. So I think that's a perfect addendum to what we learned about yesterday when it came to content marketing. I don't have any questions yet, but I do have a message that says he was my favorite so far.
Awesome.
So.
Thanks, Mom. My mom listens to all my webinars.
Really?
Yeah, she doesn't have a lot going on.
I feel bad we didn't give her a discount.
That's all right. She's hanging in Attleboro tonight, so don't worry about it.
North or south?
North.
Okay. Well, of course. I got a ditto, great speaker, informative, and a wise guy.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
I don't know if it was a wise guy or a wise guy.
Oh, I'm not actually a made man though. So,
right.
And let me just say, if people do have questions and they're shy about asking them, Our website's masslowmap.org. My email is Jared, Jared, at masslowmap.org.
Awesome. Well, great job, Jared. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the time that you've given us. Phenomenal information, so helpful. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks very much.